Hi, folks, and welcome to another Richard Lehman book retrospective review, or rather, a ranking. They're not really full reviews; they're just going into very basic detail about books that Lehman's wrote. And we've reached number 2 on my list. This one's gone back and forth a few times. This has always been in the top 3, but its placement has chopped and changed depending on the mood. So it is what it is. But at number 2, I've decided to put Richard Lehman's The Beast House, the second in his Beast House books, the sequel to The Cellar, prequel to The Midnight Tour, and probably the most well-known series that Lehman wrote, the book series that really got him off to a flying start, and the one that people associate with Lehman. And for me, this book is the best in the series, and it may well be my favourite Lehman book of them all. Firstly, that artwork, the beast coming out. Again, there's something about this sort of book, the dimensions, like I say, compared to a hand. My hand's significantly bigger than the book. There's something nice and tangible about it. The artwork, the style. This one weighs in at about 350 or so pages. It's a lot bigger than his earlier books. And this was probably it came out in 1986. And this is probably the first Lehman book that really showcased a degree of skill in its construction and its storytelling. His earlier books felt very pulpy. This one feels a significant step up in every regard. Showcasing Lehman as a writer, actually writing well. But not only that, I think that this tale is a pretty good example of a self-contained tale. Yes, it is a sequel to The Cellar. Yes, it is a prequel to The Midnight Tour. But you can read this on its own without reading any of the other books, and it stands as a story with a complete beginning, middle, and end, which I can't say about the other two. I also think that this book, it basically contains all of the qualities that I liked about The Cellar. We've got Macassar Point, which is probably Lehman's best location. We feature more beasts, which are probably Lehman's best creation. We look at the Kutch House, which is where we only got a small look at last time. We've got another group of great characters. There are some characters from the first book in here, but a whole bunch of new ones. The story here is rapid fire, rocket pace, super exciting, loads more action and suspense and violence than in The Cellar, but without any of the Cellar's, Roy and Joni and all that icky stuff that kind of dragged The Cellar down. This basically is everything The Cellar was, but better, and without any of the unpleasantness. It still contains all the usual Lehman stuff, as you'd expect. This is a visceral, hard-hitting book. I'd actually say, in many ways, this is more visceral than any of the other Beast House books, because it contains so much Lehman-esque action and stuff. It's full of violence and sex all the way through. But this is a defining example of who Lehman was. If you read this and you like this, there's a good chance you're going to like everything that Lehman's wrote, at least mostly everything. Whereas if you read this and you hate it, there's a good chance you're not going to like much of anything that Lehman's ever done. I think if there's any book that represents who Richard Lehman was as an author, well, this is the defining example of that. And as a story, like I say, I loved it. I mean, this has got moments in it that have stuck with me. There's a scene here involving a beast and a man's leg that I think is the standout scene in any Richard Lehman story. It's probably his most visceral, for me at least, most out there moment, and it's something that I never forgot, and something that no one's ever thought to do since. It's genuinely shocking, and yeah, it's this book of all the other books he's written that has stuck with me because of those scenes. But I enjoyed this more than the other Beast House books because, like I say, it doesn't have all the child rape stuff and Roy and all that, but it also isn't a bit long-winded. I like The Midnight Tour. I think it's a great book, but it is kind of more short story collection with Beast House stuff tagged on. This is everything I wanted from The Cellar, but like I say, without the bad stuff associated with it. It's Richard Lehman to a T. It's full of action, nastiness, beasts, a great location, house, It's pure 80s horror, and it's as visceral and as explicit as you'd expect from Layman, but with a great story and great characters and great action. I mean, like I say, I've ummed and ahed about where to rank this because I was dead set on the fact that I thought In the Dark would be my number one. And I've mentioned the reasons why that isn't my number one. The reason why this has gone slightly above that, I think that this is a faster paced story with more happening. In the Dark has the suspense aspect and the story, but once you've read it, on reread, that suspense aspect isn't there anymore, whereas this has always got the action. But I also think that this has a better resolution, it's got a better climax, and it's more representative of who Layman was as an author, which is why it's at number two. I think this is the single best horror story that Layman has wrote. Yeah, it's number two. It's probably my favourite. But there is a book that I would rank higher, which you'll see in the next video.